In this video, I'm going to be covering the fair housing exemptions. Exemption number one is the Mrs. Murphy exemption for owner-occupied properties up to 4 units. An owner can be exempt from fair housing under a few provisions. It has to have 4 or fewer units, and the owner has to occupy one of them. So for example, you've got a homeowner that lives in one unit of a fourplex and rents the other 3. It's potentially exempt. Now, it's called Mrs. Murphy because they kind of use that analogy of Mrs. Murphy's boarding house when they were discussing this in Congress. Now, remember, that does not allow them to have discriminatory advertising, such as Christians only, no children, whites preferred. Those advertising provisions still apply. And if there's a real estate licensee involved, there is no exemption. Exemption number 2 is for a single-family home. For certain sales or rentals, the owner has to own 3 or fewer single-family homes. Property is sold or rented without a real estate agent involved, and there's no discriminatory advertising. For example, you've got a homeowner that rents a second home without using a broker. There might be a potential exemption. Typically, you can't have a broker involved, no discriminatory advertising, and there's ownership limitations. Exemption number 3 is for religious organizations. For housing that's owned or operated by religious organizations, they can get limited exemptions. It has to be owned or operated by the religious organization, and it cannot be used for a commercial purpose. Example, a church that owns a residence can be making housing available to members of that own faith. Does not permit discrimination based on race or color. Exemption number 4 is for private clubs. Generally, if they are a legitimate private club, it's a non-commercial operation, and it's housing that's limited to members, they may be exempt. An example of that would be a private lodge housing that is reserved for members. And remember, racial discrimination is always prohibited. Exemption number 5 is the housing for older persons, most common that we see and interact with. And there are 2 types. One's called 55 plus communities, where you have to have at least 80% of all the occupied units have one occupant who's 55 or older. The community has to publish age-related policies, demonstrate their intent to operate as an age-qualified housing community, and they have to verify the occupancy requirements. An example would be a 55 plus active adult community. And they can lawfully restrict younger occupants. 62 plus communities are less common, but all occupants in those must be 62 or older. Generally, in either one, nobody under the age of 19 may reside. Memory aid for this is ORSO. O is owner-occupied, the Mrs. Murphy exemption. R is religious organizations. S is single-family homes, sold or rented without a broker. And then O is the older person's housing. Visual graph to give you the information in a very quick guide. And then lastly, just remember, no matter what, you cannot do discriminatory advertising, and you can never discriminate based on race. As always, best of luck preparing for your exam.